Hey guys, and welcome to this video called After 430 Days, 27 November 2018. And that's obviously the date that I'm looking at very closely because I find it very interesting. And I'm going to go through some other things which I found in this video. And then at the end of it, I'm going to go through the celestial profile again. And also that those maths which we've covered in the other videos, but I just want to cover them again. So the 27th of November 2018. We all know Daniel 9:27, which is the 70th week of Daniel, and he shall confirm the covenant with the many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation. And that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. So one of the things that I like to do is take particular verses and their numbers, because I believe the Bible is supernatural, even down to the chapter and the verse numbers, and then take those numbers, the chapter and the verse, and then look at them in the Torah, which is the first 5 books of Moses, obviously. And in Genesis 9:27, it says, "God shall enlarge Japheth." Japheth is Japheth went north, so Japheth is the European, and of course America came out of that sort of area as well. And then Shem was where the lineage of Abraham came from. So it says, "God shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant." So I found that very interesting. That's Genesis 9:27. So the association with the 70th week of Daniel and the Daniel 9:27, the tents of Japheth, and we know that tents and tabernacles, and the area of protection is called tabernacles when they were protected in the wilderness, and that's a foreshadow of the rapture of the church, when the church is going to be protected from the tribulation. Then Exodus 9:27, it says, "And Pharaoh sent and called for Moses and Aaron, and said unto them, I have sinned this time, and the Lord is righteous, and I and my people are wicked." And that was when there was hail, and there was a storm which came on Egypt. But after this, Pharaoh hardened his heart, so that this wasn't when the children, the firstborn, were killed, but this was in the midst of all of the plagues which bothered Egypt. And this was one of the things that Pharaoh acknowledged, that him and his people were wicked. So I thought that was interesting as well. And Leviticus is the law, when the Gentiles are not under the law, and Numbers is Israel numbered, and of course the Gentiles are not numbered of Israel. So there's no 9:27 in Leviticus or in the book of Numbers, but in Deuteronomy, in 9:27, it says, "Remember thy servants, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Look not unto the stubbornness of this people, nor to their wickedness, nor to their sin." So that's very much in line with the 70th week of Daniel and Daniel 9:27. So I just thought I'd share that with you and open with those interesting verses before we go on. So the 27th of November 2018, and of course this is the date that I'm looking at and I'm finding very interesting, and I'm going to tell you the other things that I found which are interesting and associated with this date as well. September 23rd, 2017, which is the Revelation chapter 12 sign, the date of that, plus 430 days, is November 27th, 2018. Novem, the month of November, although it's our 11th month, Novem was the 9th month. So on the Roman calendar, the Novem 9 is Latin. Novem is Latin for the number 9. So that would be 9:27, and of course Daniel 9:27. We've just been over the 9:27s. Is the 70th week of Daniel. So he shall confirm the covenant of the many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease. So 9:27, the 27th of November, if we look at the actual meaning of the word November would be 9. And of course the 27th day, and that fits perfectly with the 27th verse of the book of Daniel, or the 9th book of Daniel. So Genesis 15:5 is when God brought Abraham forth abroad and said, "Look now towards heaven, and tell the stars if thou be able to number them. And he said, so shall thy seed be. So when God said to Abraham, look up towards heaven and tell the stars, so he's telling him to look at the stars, and if you're able to number them, so shall thy seed be. And exactly 430 years later to the day, it's recorded in Exodus 12:41, it says, and it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, even the self-same day, it came to pass that all the hosts of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt. So 430, and that number is very closely associated with the Abrahamic covenant. And the Abrahamic everlasting land covenant is when God said to Abraham, when God put Abraham to sleep, and he signed the covenant between the sacrifice which was halved. So there were 3 red heifers and 2 birds, and the heifers were halved, and the birds were not halved. And God put Abraham to sleep, and went through them, made a figure of 8, literally signed this covenant on his own, an everlasting covenant. And what he said about that covenant was, unto thee I give the land of Canaan. The whole premise of the everlasting covenant is the land which is promised to the seed of Abraham. It's an unconditional covenant. It's an everlasting covenant. The Jews have no say in it, and it's God who has promised this to Abraham, and that is the only covenant that man can come along and break, and that's of course when he divides the land of Israel. So that was 430 years. So the everlasting covenant that man is going to come along and break is the Daniel 9:27 covenant made with the many, and that is the breaking of the everlasting land covenant. And with that covenant is associated 430 years, which was when Israel came out of Egypt as a nation. So the covenant itself and the number 430 are bound together. And if we see that they are about to divide the land of Israel, that is the breaking of the everlasting covenant. So the number 430 is very closely associated with that. And that's why I find this day so very, very interesting. Just the number 430, and we've got the alignment on that day. That's exactly the day that the alignment happened. So that's why I'm so focused and interested in this day. And of course, nothing might happen. But nevertheless, this is the day that seems to fit. Everything seems to fit into this day, from my perspective, anyway. And then Jesus said in Luke 21:28, when these things begin to come to pass. So he's describing the earthquakes and pestilences and nation rising against nation and all these things that we see happening. And of course, the perversion, homosexual marriage, all the things which are being legalized, and of the changing of the ordinances. So they are the actual changing of the laws themselves. And then finally, like it says in Isaiah 24 verses 5, we've transgressed the laws, we've changed the ordinances, we've changed the laws, and then the breaking of the everlasting covenant is the straw that breaks the camel's back. So when you see these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift your heads up, for your redemption draweth nigh. So God is giving us a sign in the heavens. It said, and also in Luke 21 it says that there shall be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars. So and Jesus says, then lift your heads up and look at these things. So that's the sign, the Revelation chapter 12 sign. For your redemption draweth nigh. So 430 days after the Revelation chapter 12 sign, and we're going to see if anything happens. And of course, there's the 10 days before that, which is very interesting, which I'm going to go over in a few slides. 430 days later, after we see the Revelation chapter 12 sign, is November the 27th, 2018. Okay, and just some other things that I've been digging into this day that I want to share with you guys. Israel returned May 14, 1948, and if we look at the number of days between that date and the 27th November 2018, that's 25,765. So if we split those apart and we say Strong's, we look at the Strong's numbers, which are which are very interesting when we look at which numbers they are. Strong's 25 is agapo, which means to love. And Strong's 765 is esebes, which means ungodly or impious. So if you split those two apart, we see to love and then to be ungodly. So there's a separation there, right? And then if we look at Jerusalem, which was recaptured on the 7th of June 1967, and the number of days to the 27th of November 2018 is 18,801. And Strong 18s is agathos, which is good. And Strong's 801 is asenutos, which is without understanding or foolish, right? So you've got the wise virgins and the foolish virgins. So I thought that was interesting. So Strong 726 means harpazo, and we are now 700, and we are in the region of 726,000 days away from the crucifixion of Christ. So 726,000 days away from the crucifixion of Christ, which was on the 5th of April 30 AD. 726,000, we get a window period. So we would say from the crucifixion of Christ to 726,000 days is the 22nd of December 2017. And then if we say from the crucifixion of Christ, which is again the 5th of April 30 AD, until 726,999 days, would be Wednesday, the 16th of September 2020. So if God was going to do the miracle of the rapture within 726,000 to 726,999, that would be associated with Strong's 726. So there's a window period from Friday the 22nd of December 2017 to Wednesday the 16th of September 2020. So Jesus was crucified Wednesday 5th of April 30 AD. And from that period until the 17th of November, which is the first interesting date, is 726,330 days. And Strong's 330 is anathallo, which means to revive, right? So that's very interesting, 726,330 days. And then to the 27th of November is 726,340 days. And Strong's 340 is anakanizo, which is to renew. So we see to revive, Strong's 330, and to renew, which is Strong's 340. And notice there, that's 330, that's 33. Remember, Jesus was obviously crucified at 33. There's a third of the stars of heaven which are cast down. Those are the fallen angels. So there's this number 33 which is associated with rebellion. Remember, there was 33 days before the Great American Eclipse and the Revelation chapter 12 sign. So I find it very interesting that this period of time that we're talking about, just these 10 days which are coming up, are 726,330 to 726,340 days. And the Strong's 330 and Strong's 340 mean to revive and to renew. And of course we know that it says that the dead in Christ shall rise, which sounds to me like revive, and we shall join them in the air, and we're going to get our we're going to be translated, and that sounds to me like renew. So I thought I'd share that with you guys, and we'll see if it comes to pass. But also November the 27th is the 331st day of the year. So notice 331, right? And we're talking about 330 days, and there are 34 days remaining until the end of the year, and we see 726,340 days. So I thought that was very interesting as well, because there's a very short period of time. If we're looking at 726, which is Strong's for harpazo, then those are really the only 10 days that would contain the number 33, and the number 34, and November the 27th is the 331st day, and there are 34 days remaining in the year. So it all kind of seems to link up. And on November the 27th, Bill Nye, who's the science guy, that's his birthday. So I thought you'd find that interesting. Imagine that the rapture of the church happens on Bill Nye's birthday. And in 1095 was when the First Crusade was declared by Pope Urban II, and that was at the Council of Clermont. And on the 27th of November, it included the calls to arms that would result in the First Crusade and eventually the capture of Jerusalem and the establishment of the Kingdom of Jerusalem. So the Crusades, when the Pope, that was when the Crusades began on the 27th of November in 1095, and that's exactly 923 years. That was 923 years ago on November the 27th, and of course 923 we know was the Revelation chapter 12 sign. So these are just kind of interesting things that I wanted to share with you guys. And then Everlasting Covenant has 7 syllables in it, and Peace Deal of the Century also has 7 syllables in it. We're at the centenary of World War I. 1918 plus 100 is World War III, and when they shall say peace and safety, and that's the whole world saying peace and safety, obviously because of World War I and everything that happened in World War I. But what seems hypocritical to me is that Macron and all of the world leaders are standing up and saying we need peace and all these kinds of things, but then they continue to sell weapons and arm countries which are tyrannical countries. Of course, Israel is at 70 years old, and the Revelation chapter 12 sign plus 430 days, not forgetting that there is a major planetary alignment right on the claw of Scorpio. That's Jupiter as the man-child, the sun as God, and the Bible describes God as a sun. Mercury as the messenger. Mercury has an 88-day synodic period, and 8 is the number for new beginnings. So messenger brings messages of change and new beginnings. And then Scorpio as the dragon or the serpent or Satan or conflict. And it has always been known that Scorpio is the representation of Satan in the constellations along the ecliptic. And a big one, Strong's H430 is Elohim. Strong's H430 means God. And if you look into the number 430 is a foundational number in Gematria. And as we mentioned before, the Abrahamic everlasting covenant, Israel exit Egypt at 430 years to the very day. And in Gematria, the number 430, the same weighted words, which is the number 430, is perfect, or soul, or law, or wife, or heaven, or live, or twilight, or harvest, or swallow, or punish, or sin, or judge. So those are very interesting numbered words, which calculate up to 430 in Gematria. So I'm going to go over the celestial map again and just cover everything that we've covered in the previous videos. Of course, we've got Mercury, the Sun, and Jupiter aligning right on the left-hand claw of Scorpio, and Scorpio is known as the representation of the conflict. So this is the conflict here in E.W. Bullinger's book and in Francis Rolliston's Mazzaroth and E.W. Bullinger's Witness of the Stars. It says that Scorpio is the conflict, and we see that there's this perfect alignment 430 days after the Revelation chapter 12 sign in a very, very small area along the ecliptic. Notice how large the ecliptic is, and what a tiny little section the sun. It takes the sun 6 days to traverse this little bit of the ecliptic. And of course, what man has done is he's divided the constellations into 30-degree portions, and then said, April, March and April is Aries and so forth, and that's just nonsense. The natal astrology, which is making the constellations about us, which is idolatry and satanic, they've divided them up into 30-degree sections, as I'm sure you know. But in reality, the portion that that Scorpio takes along the ecliptic, and the sun is only in the portion of Scorpio for 6 days. So it's actually less than 2% of the period that the sun spends along the ecliptic. Less than 2% is spent in the constellation of Scorpio, and Jupiter will spend 22 days there, and it takes 12 years to for the Jupiter synodic period is 12 years, and Mercury is 88 days. So that's how long it takes to orbit around the sun. So what I'm trying to express is the tiny period of time that this conjunction. It's very easy to look at the conjunction and just go, oh wow, they're conjuncting there, and so what? But if you really understand how long it takes these 3 planets to traverse the ecliptic, and the chances of them all coming together in this very short period of time, right on the claw of Scorpio, then you really start to appreciate the how rare this event really is. And of course we have Saturn, which is the planet of Satan, which is in Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is the rider on a horse with a bow. There's the bow and a crown, and he's actually a beast, and unto him was given a crown. So this is perfect as far as where Saturn is, as the Antichrist. And then going along, the water bearer, Aquarius, which is of course the water bearer is the Holy Spirit. Mars is the planet of war, and Neptune was the god of water and rivers and all those kinds of things. So that's in the water bearer, which is the Holy Spirit. So we know that when the Holy Spirit is taken out of the way, then shall that wicked be revealed. And Mars is the planet of war. In the Babylonian tablets and those kinds of things, Mars and Saturn were always malefic. Always. Any researcher that has documented the Babylonian astrological system will tell you that Mars and Saturn were always malefic planets. And of course they hadn't seen Neptune then, but we can now obviously see Neptune, and the fact that it's called Neptune. God uses all these things to his benefit. So Neptune is the water god, the god of water and the seas, and Mars is the planet of war in the water bearer. So that's perfect. Then along the ecliptic, right at the left hoof of Aries, which is the sacrificial lamb, or it's the ram which has been dealt a death blow. You can see just like in Capricorn, we can see this. Capricorn is the sacrificial goat, right? You can see that this is out of the sacrifice comes this tail full of vitality and life, and from the sacrifice comes life. So that's what Capricorn is, and much the same. Aries is the sacrifice, and the sacrifice of God. It's the wounded ram, and on its left hoof, it's always been depicted in the left hand band or cord of the fish, which is going horizontal, and the E.W. Ballinger says that's the heavenly calling. So Uranus is the god of heaven. So Uranus is right there. You can see right there on the band of the fish, which is going upwards, and on the hoof of the sacrificial ram, which is of course Jesus Christ, and he has his he is in the midst of the church, and he's going to snatch us away. Praise the Lord. And then there's the moon, which I think is the most interesting part. The moon is in the beehive cluster, right in that area where the protected, the multitudes, the thousands, the assembled, the gathered. In the E.W. Ballinger notes that this beehive cluster and the crab is the representation of the protection, the protected area. And right on this day is when and the moon is right there on this day. It's absolutely incredible. So I would encourage you to watch the other videos where I've gone through this again. I'm just so excited. I want to go through it again, to be honest. And of course, Venus is exactly where Jupiter was. That's the man-child. If I go back 430 days, if I step backwards, right? So I go back 430 days. There's Jupiter. There's the Revelation chapter 12 sign, right there. Clothed with the sun, with the moon at her feet, and a head, a crown of 12 stars, and she being with child, cried, travailing in birth. Right, that's Jupiter was going backwards and forwards in her womb for exactly 9 months, and then out came Jupiter, and that's exactly where we see Venus 430 days later. I mean, you can't even make this up, right? So right on that day, on the 27th of November, is the day that I think is perfect for the rapture of the church, as far as the whole celestial body is concerned, and the celestial map and the charts, if you will, that we look at, and we say, okay, how does this? Every single thing that's out there, all the luminaries are in a perfect position, plus all the other stuff that's pointing to this. So I just wanted to go over this again, and first of all, because I had a mistake in the previous video. This was 2016, and there was a 5 over here. I tried to correct it, but it didn't process correctly. So I just wanted to go over this again and just try and explain it, because I had a lot of people that didn't quite understand why I was trying to come back this way. So I'm going to try and explain it as simply as I can. Again, and hopefully I'll make more sense this time. So starting from the premise that the 23rd of September 2017, which is the Revelation chapter 12 sign, starting from the premise that is the mathematical marker and the foundation point of everything. So God gave us that sign in the heavens to work from a mathematical perspective. So we go from that date and we go forward 1260 days, because we know 1260 is the number of days that the 2 witnesses will witness for, and that is that there are 1260 days until the mid-tribulation point, right? So if we go 1260 days from the Revelation chapter 12 sign, so we pretend, if you will, that the rapture happened on that date, right? Which obviously didn't, but that's what we're doing. We're pretending that on the basis that we're using that date as the mathematical point to work from. So we go forward 1260 days, 1260 24-hour days, and that takes us to the 6th of March 2021. So that would be the mid-trib marker on the basis of the rapture happening on the 23rd of September, right? But we know that the days are going to be shortened, because Jesus said, if those days were not shortened, there shall no flesh survive. And then it tells us in Revelation that that 1/3 of the days, or the number of time that was reduced was 1/3. So the days are only 2/3 long, which means that the days are 16 hours long. So if we take So now we're going from the mid-trib point that we use as the calculator, and we go backwards, but we go backwards 1260. So we go backwards 1260 16-hour days, right? That means that in order to calculate that, it is the equivalent. So 1260 16-hour days is the equivalent of 840 24-hour days. So this here, we go to the 6th of March 2021, and we go back 840 days. And that takes us to the 17th of November 2018. Now, I worked that out, that if we subtract 840 days from the 6th of March, we get to the 17th of November 2018. So from the 17th of November 2018, if the days were to be 1,260 16-hour days, that would then take us to the 6th of March 2021. And I hope I'm making sense. So when I came up with this date, the 17th of November 2018, which is the 9th of Kislev, that's next weekend, Saturday, 17th of November. Somebody else said to me that is exactly 666 days from when Donald Trump's presidency began. So I find that a huge coincidence, a massive, massive coincidence, that is exactly 666 days from when Donald Trump's presidency began. So that is the mathematical thinking behind this. We go forward 1,260 24-hour days. Then we go backwards 840 24-hour days, which is the equivalent of 1,260 16-hour days. I hope that's clear. Right? Then from the Revelation chapter 12 sign, we're going back to the Revelation chapter 12 sign. We go forwards 430 days, and that's obviously associated with the Abrahamic everlasting covenant and the number of days Ezekiel was told to lie on his side. And there's some other things in the Bible which mention 430, which I've covered in the previous videos. If we go forward 430 days, then we come to Tuesday, the 27th of November, 2018. That's the 19th of Kislev. And on this day is when that sign happens, when that major conjunction, which is happening in the heavens, that's when it happens, on the 27th of November. And somebody else, one of you guys, told me that is exactly 1,260 days, which is it's a biblical mathematical marker, right? We use the 1,260 days to calculate things, because those are the numbers which are given to us in the Bible. So those are the numbers we use to calculate, and this is what it comes up with. So we see that Saturday the 17th of November, and which is the 9th of Kislev, there's a period between these 2 days is 10 days, right? So and of course nothing might happen, but nevertheless, this is very interesting because of these two things pointing to these dates. The 17th of November is obviously 666 days from Donald Trump, his presidency begins, and calculating backwards as I went through. And the 27th of November is interesting because it's 430 days and all the Abrahamic everlasting covenant and all those things associated with it. And there's a sign in the heavens, and that is 1,260 days from when Donald Trump announced his run for president. So, guys, I know I've rambled on, and I hope I've made sense. I really don't like to think that I've confused anyone. I'll try and explain. Try and explain it more if anyone is still not quite sure what this means or what I'm trying to get at here. And we don't have a long time to find out whether this is all just nonsense or whether it actually means something. But nevertheless, I think it is. It's intriguing to say the least, and we'll find out to see if it means anything very soon. And I hope it does, because I hope to see you in the sky.